Great. How are you doing? Mm, and as I was listening to you talking, I was thinking about the content that we've been talking about is really talking about rewiring our brains, our consciousness, our rewiring our life so that we can live a better, happier, healthier, more rich life. Right. Yeah. And interestingly, as you talk about, we have these conversations all the time. As I look at my life over the last 53 years, about 20 years ago, it started to change direction, right? Now, part of that, or a lot of that, had to do with sobriety. A lot of it had to do with meeting your mother, but the majority of the consistencies, what we're going to be talking about today, is in the way I started talking, the conversations I started having, and the way I started viewing life. You need to unmute your Zoom, please.
Okay, is that better?
Yep.
So with what's going on, with what was happening in my life 20 years ago, it was, for lack of a better word, kind of chaotic, right? We were in survivor flight kind of mode, and then you came into our lives, and the pure consistency of being able to show up was huge. And we would show up together and our family, and we would just start figuring it out one thing at a time. And so 20 years later, I have this almost unstoppable way of, all right, well, let's just figure it out, right? It's no longer stress for me.
This is actually not even what we're going to talk about today. Because you were talking about that, I was thinking about the family meetings your mom used to have. And it would make total sense to start out a family meeting with problems, right? But that's not actually how it started out. It started out with gratitudes and catching people doing great things.
Well, and even I've kind of adopted those into my daily life of, and my son Cole, he will get upset about this, but during our family dinner, because we're pretty consistent about making sure we're eating dinner together as a family. And we're very intentional about that. But we go through our best bit, of what was your
Yeah,
best bit for the day. And granted, we totally stole that from, I believe it's John Gordon with the energy bus.
right,
But ending our day in gratitude as well, or starting family meetings with gratitude, it's finding the abundance in the world or the good things in the world.
right.
And that's actually a good lead into our actual topic for today, which is consistency and rituals.
Yeah, and I wanted to start off with that study that came up last week on our call with Christopher Suarez in a study that was done, and it started in the 90s, but it's even worse today. 23% of us are actually engaged in whatever we're doing, whether it's a business meeting, whether it's our life, showing up in our life. 23% are like truly fully engaged. 59% are disengaged, whether just, well, whatever, we're kind of there, kind of not. 18% are highly disengaged.
Highly
Like,
disengaged, meaning they're not
which
involved
means
at all.
they're working against themselves or
Wow.
working against the company they're with. Those numbers were astonishing. But as I thought about it deeper, it really goes along with that Pareto principle, which if you look at your life, everything in life is based on that principle, right?
That 80-20 rule.
20% of your activities are going to get 80% of your results. 20% of the people will do 80% of the business at your work or of the work. No matter what we're looking at, that shows up.
It's really incredible too, because as we look at our lives and look at us individually, we don't think that today necessarily matters, or we can't get out and exercise or go to the gym today. And then 6 months down the road, we still haven't found that time, right? Or 10 years down the road, we're so emotionally drained from surviving that we can't function, so it's really those micro habits or those rituals or those daily activities that have a huge compound effect on our lives. Just because this is kind of in our world and we're very vocal, or we're very active in it, is, you're not an alcoholic on day one, right? That first drink doesn't cause those things. That extra calorie doesn't cause, obesity. That one-time thing, it's the consistency or the power of those rolling consistencies. I'm not a successful business owner because I showed up today. I'm a successful business owner and insurance agent because I show up consistently every day. And I have for now 5 years. Today is my my 6th anniversary with Farm Bureau. And it's the consistency in those things that I do every day.
Today's your anniversary?
Yes, May 5th or May 1st, 2018 is when I started with Farm Bureau Financial.
Nice.
And I have still been able to outperform most of my peers in consistency of customer service and retention. So it's pretty powerful, but that didn't happen overnight. And in the first year of being an insurance agent, I couldn't tell you what I was supposed to do.
Well, okay, I'm going to push back a little bit, because part of it did happen overnight. And it's in the fact that you, from day one, said, okay, I am going to outperform in customer service. No matter what, I am going to make sure my customer service is out of this world every time, to the best of my ability.
Very
right?
true.
And you've tried to pull that off every time for the last 5 years. Okay. Another part of it, consistently, you have done your monthly potlucks, a little cute gift of love and appreciation and gratitude every month.
Yes.
To the people that you love and want to do business with.
Yes, very true. And I think that there's, thank you, Kate Boardman, for listening to the radio show. He's with High Voltage Barbecue out in Parowan. Thanks, Kate. I appreciate you and your cute little message really quick. But it's,
did he just say, hey, I support that, right?
Yeah, he texted and said, hey, happy work anniversary. So anyways, but it's those things that I find high value in, because it's going back to the human connection for me. It's making sure people in my life, in my book of business, in my community know that they are loved and respected for their path. And their path is not mine, and I honor and give them grace for whatever they're going through, but knowing that in the end, we can go through things and life together and become better because of it. And it's those consistent habits, or the rituals. I write 10 note cards a week, if not more, of expressing gratitude for people, or how much they've impacted my life, or maybe they're going through a rough patch and I'm trying to give them encouragement. It's those small things that add up. And when, with our place partner, Christopher Suarez, it's instrumental every week. They bring very key topics to our lives in this consistency and ritual, that help us grow. And our place partners are so encouraging that they come back week after week with different study topics, with different things that they can be doing, that our whole team, thousands of agents, can do a little bit better every day, because they know what the compound effect will do. We can't see it. We can barely rough in like what our next 30 days of life is going to be, right? Let alone the next year or the next 5 years.
Yeah, so, in today's, in the first part of the topic, that I said, the transformative power of consistency. I've been going back and reading the one thing again, and in the domino experiment, and they're talking the force of energy, right? I think it's by the 10th domino, the power of the energy from those little dominoes doubling in size with each domino is the height of the Tower of
Empire's.
Pisa,
Oh, yes.
right? So that's the power of consistency. Power of consistency over time will reach to the moon very shortly. But I want it to be that powerful the second day. But
Which,
it probably takes a year to be truly powerful.
well, and it's,
5 years to be truly powerful, right? In your business.
right. Oh, for sure. And it's that one thing that we start, or the one thing we want to change about our lives that we just have to start. And we don't have to run a mile in 6 minutes. We have to walk. Can we walk? Can we even walk around the block? Can we walk a mile? Can we then jog a quarter of it and walk the rest? Can we jog half of it? And it's a progressive thing. You're not going to be like in baseball. How many, or tennis, Serena Williams has her mind reset rituals, like bouncing the ball 5 times before her first serve and 2 times between her second serve. It's a reset mindset, right? But
puts you into that zone, so to speak.
right. And it's getting back to what's happening in the immediate moment, rather than trying to figure out what's going to happen in the last match. What's going on right now that we can control. Michael Jordan's, Kobe Bryant, all of the other great baseball players, or those are basketball players, but great baseball players, Babe Ruth, all of the
Good catch.
right. Yeah, sorry. I do know my sports, even though I don't watch. But all of them have tremendous statistics of failure. But when they show up and they show up in power, they're showing up powerfully. Right?
Well, and it goes back to the consistency. Everybody sees the greatness. They weren't there every day while they were practicing.
Right.
In our real estate world, I talk about all the time. People look at my business and think, wow, how lucky are you? Well, they weren't with me the first 3 years when I was up at 6 o'clock in the morning practicing with people on the East Coast so that I could get better and better and better and better at connecting. How do I get better? So, they weren't with me during those times for 3 years, every morning when I was awake, practicing to get better. All they see is the result now and going, wow, you're so lucky.
Right. And then the true pivotal point is, are they willing to show up and do the work for themselves? Are they willing to show up for themselves?
Or I want to come back to you. This is a good segue into that disengaged, engaged, highly disengaged. Or when they look at, and I'm just using myself as an example because all my life people have thought, wow, you're just way too happy. Are you on drugs or something? I'm generally a really happy person.
Right. Absolutely.
But what they don't see is how I'm going to go into the deer, the study that we talked about.
Yes.
And it's ways to bring us back into motivation or back to consistency. Because I can't tell you how many times I'm working out or I'm riding my bike and I'm consistent, and then all of a sudden something happens and I get derailed with my schedule. Next thing I know, it's been 3 weeks and I haven't went out and ridden during the day. And if I don't intentionally do it, I get sucked away. Right. So this DEAR, which is an acronym for detachment, empathy, action, and reframing, and those four things will help us get back to motivation or consistency. And we're going to talk about the first one today, which I think has been really important to me, my success and my happiness, which is detachment. You take a break, detach, to break away and reflect. Stop working long enough to really reflect on what's happening, really detach from the situation for a minute. Number two is move your body. That improves your mood and your cognitive function. Number three is reframing. If we can find a way to reframe in the third person so that it detaches us from our emotions, because we all can solve each other's problems. It's really hard to solve our own.
Right. But actively doing that too, like talking in my situation, McKinnon, are you doing the right things?
Yeah. So talking to yourself, even if it's in your head, because if you do it out loud, they'll probably think you're crazy. Really talk to yourself as a third person. Hey, is this really what you want to do? Hey, Jesse, is this really the result you want to get? It allows us to start looking at things more objectively instead of emotionally.
And that acronym was DEAR, correct?
DEAR, yep, dear. Detachment. Now, we're not going to talk about empathy, action, and reframing today.
Correct.
Maybe we'll bring that back next week. But the detachment is a big piece, because if we can't detach, then we can't show up with ourselves with empathy. We can't step into action because we're still in that emotional state. And we can't reframe if we're still deep into emotional living.
And so when we go into this compound effect or the rituals and consistency, right, in our life, if we want to change something about our life, whether that's, the tablespoon of mayonnaise for a tablespoon of mustard type thing, or the different things, you just have to start, right? But you first, to get rid of that bad habit, or to start working into making your life a more positive life to live in, you have to first detach, right? You have to be able to think objectively about what's going on and how can you take respective action towards
Right.
getting that out of your life. Vice versa, being a successful business. If there's business owners listening to this, or different things, it's the time will come, right? We can't think of 2 or 3 years in advance, but we can do it today, and we can do it well, and we can show up for our clients, perform well. And over time, that will have more effects, just like the domino effect in The One Thing by Gary Keller, is over time, those small things add up and push our businesses further than we could have ever imagined. It also pushes our community further than we could have ever imagined, because if we show up for our charities, if we show up for the one things that are just very critical in our life, those things have exponential ripples that we can't even comprehend.
So I want to come back to something you said about business. I really believe in the detachment and the reframing and around our business. It'll allow us to really ask ourselves, am I actually doing the most important things for my business that will help it move forward in a much deeper capacity, in a much better capacity? If I don't detach and look at it from the outside, many times I miss it, and I just think, well, man, I'm working hard, I'm doing the right things, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. They very well may be the wrong levers to really grow the business.
And those are really critical conversations you get to have with your business partners or your trusted advisors or your coach, because sometimes we have to get out of our own head and see from another person's lens what's going on and what's not going on.
Yeah, let me give you an example of one place that wouldn't make sense. A few years ago, I realized that if I working with somebody and the energy's wrong, it will just decapacitate me for a month. So I've started walking away as soon as I feel that energy. No matter how much business it is. If the energy's wrong, I walk away. That's counterintuitive to growing your business, but it will actually allow you to grow your business even further.
Because you're
then
putting
I'm working with people with the same energy or with trust.
right. And aren't those just powerful snippets of making sure that we're showing up in our right place and doing the right thing? Because sometimes those are red lights and green lights in our life that we need to put energy into, or know that that's not for us. It's been an incredible journey today. Jesse, thank you so much for joining us for Wired Wednesday. This has been your host, McKinnon Hansen. And, you know, it's a little different going through the Wired Wednesday mindset reset stuff, but I do believe in the power of what we're talking about, and really trying to help our community grow and making sure that we are all showing up just a little bit better each day for ourselves, for our family, and for our community. Thank you so much for joining Wired Wednesday. This has been McKinnon Hansen, your insurance agent with Farm Bureau Financial Services, 435-592-2021, and with Jesse Paul with the Larkin Group at KW Realty. Visit gocedarcity.com. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.